This is the OTB Television Network, a service of Capital District Off-Track Betting.
And they're off.
Good morning and welcome to In. They're off on this Sunday morning. Seth Merrill and Anthony Mormino. Good morning, Anthony.
Good morning.
Thanks to our friends at Woodbine for their sponsorship. Always want to thank them for the sponsorship of the programming here. Woodbine, pick, bet, and cheer on great racing north of the border. Speaking of Woodbine, coming up a little bit later on the show, in the second half of the show, Keith McCalmont from Woodbine. They have the nice day today with the Oaks and the Queen's Plate trial. So a lot of the Queen's Plate runners will be running this afternoon. We'll get a better barometer of that. Keith will give us some thoughts on both of those races for today. Before that, we'll be joined in a few by Steve Bick, of course, down at Belmont all week long doing the radio show. He was there yesterday and the last 3 days, in fact, for the nice stakes racing down there. So we'll get some of his thoughts on that. But you and I talked a little bit during the handicappers report. It was a great 3 days of racing.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, a wonderful, wonderful celebration of thoroughbred racing in June. The weather cooperated, which has been dicey down at Belmont and upstate since they've been at Belmont. Late April, May was very dicey, but just tremendous. Nice 2-year-old racing they had on Thursday and Friday. Terrific card on Friday, and then yesterday. The Triple Crown wasn't on the line. You didn't have the Derby winner. You didn't have the Preakness winner. You didn't have the 2-year-old champ, who would have been the favorite, who you got to imagine would have been tough in there against that group. But, and I didn't watch the telecast. I never watch a telecast. In my opinion, they make it impossible for a horse fan to watch it. But the racing, the individual racing, really starting with the easy goer. It might have been with the first race. If I got my 9-1 shot, that would have been my second favorite race of the day. But it was fantastic. You had the Songbird starting her 4-year-old campaign, coming back and being good enough off the bench for Jerry Hollendorfer to win. You had the Bob Baffert, Mike Smith show, and at the end of the day, you had Todd Pletcher and Jose Ortiz winning an exciting stretch run in the Belmont, even though it was just the case, Seth, as you know, I love the shot. I love the equipment they bring in. But, man, it was like nobody was moving the last 5/16 of a mile. It's like I knew looking at Lee was done at the 3/8 pole. I'm like, he's toast. He'll never rally against these. But nobody rallied. It just became a stretch run like the Preakness.
Yeah, and we'll watch the race here, and there was a little freakish performance, kind of harkening back, I guess, to Thunder Snow in the Derby. It was a different scenario entirely, but kind of played out in a similar. In that Hollywood Handsome here, the number 5 horse is going to run into trouble going into the turn. The jockey Florent Giraud loses the irons, and at that point it was a little bit dangerous. Although he was able to guide the horse to the outside, and then the horse just kind of. The rest of the field ran away as they got to the midpoint.
And there it was.
The backstretch. Yeah, and you see him kind of loses
Lost
the irons, and you can tell at this point he just doesn't have control anymore, really. The horse then says, well, I still want to get into the race, and does so until maybe, as they say, halfway up the backstretch. And if you see the front end shot, Florent has him out pretty far. But Tapwrit, the number 2 horse, number 7, Irish War Cry, were up in the thick of things from late in the backstretch, and then they got into the stretch and dueled it out. I took a little shot with Twisted Tom. I'll tell you, I lost all flavor for him when the odds showed up.
I like that price.
I will say, I like your opinion. Didn't you look at the entire odds board and think the whole thing was screwy? There was only one horse over 15-1. And to me,
No, you know why? Because I don't think much of them.
And I think that's what it indicated. I think the betting public was all over the place.
Your horse had to improve by 20 points, I said, off of a,
And I thought he ran okay. He was mid-pack all the way around and held
he did
up
run
mid-pack.
okay at,
but
30,
he was, yeah,
at
but,
35 to 1
but
he
at
ran
8,
okay.
He was not, at
I
8
told
to 1.
people I didn't like looking at Lee with the price. This was a tough betting race because how could you have confidence in Irish War Cry? And I loved him in Florida in the whole. I mean, so I'm on that bandwagon. I will give him credit. He went 23-4 for the opening quarter, and he did stick around. But boy, they started backing this up. I mean, looking at Lee had no chance in here. He's trying to rally into. They're all running faster now, and you're so-so. You need a pace to run at. So that was no good. But Seth, I think absolutely because I've been down this road often with the Belmont Stakes. I know it's $1 million race and it's a classic, and next year I guess will be the 150th running. But that doesn't mean good horses always win it or run in it. This was an allowance race for me, which I like from a betting standpoint. But
I think the top two, as we get to the end of the year, stand a chance of being players in this 3-year-old division.
How could you have any confidence that Irish War Cry is going to do anything?
Well,
how about the King's
you get back
Bishop?
to a mile and an eighth. I think you're more.
I'd like to see
more
him running the King's
his
Bishop.
wheelhouse. Well, we'll see how it plays out the rest of the year. But I think Tapwrit can be a player. Patch, clunks up for third here.
Great verb.
But, and as I say, my Twisted Tom winds up, 7th in the field, 6th in the field of 11. Senior Investment, 5th in the field of 11. Gormley was 4th. J-Boy's Echo disappoints again, running 9th. So it was, as I say, I think the top two to me have the potential to move forward and be okay in a division that hasn't defined itself yet. We'll talk more about that a little bit later in the show. But
I'll be watching very closely because I do not concur. I think that was a 91.
I think both of those are okay.
I think that was a 91 Belmont Stakes.
We'll see.
Yes, we will.
103 buyer figure for
Don't worry, I said the same thing when Commendable won at the start of this century, and he never won it. This is good luck because I'll be watching. I've told this story before. Just as I watched everybody come out of Rachel Alexander's Whitney and go about 5 for 85 after that race, I'll be watching all of these horses. As they come out, because I had no confidence.
To me, the odds,
great betting race.
The odds on the top two were probably okay. Irish War Cry, you had to figure he was going to be the favorite, so he's 5-2, 5-1 on Tapwrit.
I would have given anybody at the track 4-1 on Irish War Cry.
Yeah,
you can't have confidence in those types of horses.
But given the rest of this field, the top two maybe. But then you go to there, like I say, Twisted Tom. I took a shot, and I mentioned it over the past few days. A lot of it was based on that morning line of 20-1. So I did watch the telecast. I was sitting working on the computer most of the afternoon. About 5 o'clock, I walked out.
What'd you think?
And it wasn't the Belmont's better. It's more based on horse racing than the Derby, but.
I didn't even know who the woman was that was on at 5 o'clock. Nobody watches more sports than me. Who was the woman hosting the show?
I think she is kind of the social. I think she is the one they stick in. But they flashed up the odds board at the top of the telecast. I looked at Twisted Tom. At that point, he was about 7-1. I thought, oh, man, I have lost all enthusiasm for my pick in there because, again, it was just one of those races where I thought we'd take a little bit of a shot. I thought the odds were kind of screwy. But, again, I think indicative of the fact that the betting public just didn't know which way to go. So that's the way it turned out.
Listen, some of the buzz horses became Senior Investment. I'm like, how can this race have a buzz horse? This is like survival of the leastest.
And even a buzz horse, and again, wise guy horses, you lose some points on the odds.
Yes.
But 8-1 was still too short on.
Trust me, I was the one that blasted my top pick. What did Looking at Lee finish up at?
Looking at Lee,
price.
6-1.
Awful.
Yeah,
you can't take less than 15-1 on that horse.
Yeah, it was, as I say, a funny odds.
It's always about price.
The numbers yesterday, we'll have to wait on the TV. I'm going to be interested to see the TV ratings, what they came out, because it was funny. The Derby did great ratings. The Preakness, the ratings weren't good, but it was still the best sports of that weekend, which included NBA playoffs. So the Preakness had some mitigating circumstances. I'll be interested to see what the ratings are. Attendance was down a little bit, but 57,000, that was a good number for a big day.
Outstanding job.
The handle yesterday was down a touch, down just over 1%. But the 3 days overall, they did very, very good. The 3 days was up a little bit. But Thursday and Friday, with a couple of 3 nice stakes on Thursday and about 5 on Friday. On track, they were up 18% in handle Thursday and Friday. Overall, on track, they were up 18. Overall, Thursday and Friday, they were up 32%
now, here's a question.
in handle.
I thought about this. How many Belmonts have you seen without the Triple Crown on the line?
Yeah, it's got to be quite a few.
I'm wondering how long they can keep this momentum of people going, making this festival to the track without the Triple Crown.
I mean,
the line.
they did it this year, and you looked at the
Yes.
shot of the stands. And,
It was phenomenally
man, it was,
good.
It was full.
Pat, it was
and-
great.
And I think people show up on the big day, and
Why can't they make Friday work?
yeah, that's because it now works at both Pimlico and Churchill
It
Downs.
really works at Churchill.
Yeah, that's a good question, and how they could maybe.
It was a
change
great day
up,
for Belmont
but-
Park. Kudos to
But they made
Naira.
it work betting wise, because again, the
Oh.
handle both Thursday and Friday is super. So again, as I say, going to be very, very intrigued
Other than
to see what
Songbird,
the.
which race wasn't wide open? Well, I guess they'll say the Acorn with Abel Tasman.
Well, more. I like more Spirit, but more Spirit. But yeah, it was.
Hey, how'd Mohayman look? How's that Remsen looking?
Oh boy, yeah, there was how the mighty have fallen. Cherry wine the other day.
Oh.
Also, but all right, so we'll take a break now. When we come back, our friend Steve Bick will visit us again. He was down there doing the radio show all week long, and we'll get some of his thoughts on the Belmont Stakes, some of the other action over the past few days. All of that right after this. Stay with us.
You're watching And They're Off on the OTB TV network.
We'll have to take this abuse much longer.
Hey, race fans, head down to the all-new Clubhouse Racebook and get in the game. With live horse racing on more than 250 flat-screen TVs, state-of-the-art wagering terminals, fantastic food and drinks, an amazing Vegas-style atmosphere with seating for nearly 900 of your closest friends. Conveniently located at 711 Central Avenue, right off Exit 5 of I-90 in Albany, the Clubhouse Racebook is the better choice.
Championship horse racing continues at Capital OTB. There's no better place to watch, wager, and win than OTB TV and CapitalOTBBet.com.
What if there was a way to become a better horse player, to have a better knowledge of the game, to be more successful? What if there were a way to take what you've learned, what you know, and make better decisions, better choices, to know how to connect the dots? In horse racing, knowledge is a powerful tool, but not the only tool. Race results and replays, past performances and live streaming, wagering from all your digital devices. These too are important tools, and you'll find them all right here at Capital OTB. Capital OTB. Become a better horse player.
In a recent study of some of the top online wagering sites, Capital OTB won big in total player rewards, far surpassing some of the best-known wagering sites in America. While other rewards programs simply offer you points redeemable for gift cards, Capital OTB's rebates are paid to you in actual cash. Plus, Capital OTB gives you full and immediate access to your money. So if all you're getting now are points and gift cards, join Capital OTB Player Rewards today and get cash back. Visit CapitalOTBBet.com and sign up today.
Welcome back to And They're Off. Seth Merrill and Anthony Mormino. We are reaching out to Steve Bick. When we get him, we'll plug him in. But in the meantime, we'll go back and take a look at some of that action from yesterday. The stakes-laden card.
After the fact, sometimes it looks easy. I mean, at the end of the day, what was he, 9 to 5?
9 to 5.
American Anthem.
Oh,
I mean, he just made it look easy.
yeah, it was certainly, to me, I had him in the mix, down in the mix. I thought Recruiting Ready was the one to beat in here. Recruiting Ready
Was he
runs
second
third.
choice?
But you talk about it looks easy. The Exacta was not easy. Giuseppe the Great was never going to get in my mix. And it winds up here in the Woody. Number 8, American Anthem, part of that Baffert-Smith juggernaut yesterday, wins as the favorite, pays $5.90. Giuseppe the Great at 30-1 with Tyler Gaffleone. A Nick Zito horse is second. Number 3,
But I mean,
Recruiting
he crushes
Ready,
the
third.
field. I mean, it was like, it wasn't a competitive race. He had them over the barrel. I mean, it was just like, gosh, I don't mind losing, but I mean, and I don't think Petrov was awful. I just think they were faster than him from the quarter mile pole home.
He ran fourth.
He got in position, and they just outran him to the line. He kept doing his thing, but American Anthem was down the road.
Yeah, and American Anthem, it may just be that he is more of a sprint type.
Yes.
In that he wins the 7 furlong Las Barrera and now wins the 7
See you at the
furlong
King's
Woody.
Bishop.
He had tried the Rebel earlier, didn't do much there. He tried the Santa Anita Derby, didn't do much there, and so they may have now. You got a good 3-year-old. You try the longer races, but he shows up in the sprints, and you would think King's Bishop probably is in the wheelhouse.
Absolutely, and I always say this: Groovy, Smoke Black, and they all tried to stretch their legs.
Yeah, it's not unusual.
It's the nature of it.
It's
I
not
guess
unusual
you have to.
by any means. The Just a Game. And I should have called for the
Aesthetically,
the stretch, the head on here because, as you said,
the highway.
Yeah, it's really interesting what Castellano does because he's going to have number 7, Anthony. He's going to kind of swing out, try to swing out, but then I think he realizes there's like 5 paths open, so he ducks down to the rail and runs them down. And if you watch the head on, it's strange. This whole group is literally 5 or 6 lengths out from the rail, just leaving this open for him. But boy, what a nice performance.
And I say this all the time, particularly at Saratoga. When the rails get dropped, by and large, that turf part is so good. And Castellano is going to be in the Mensa group for jockeys. And so to him, he had to be like, I want to be there because he was so intent to get there. When he wasn't any passiveness, he saw it and he just shook the reins. He's like, that's where I want to run. And there's, unlike most times, there's no chance I'm going to get shut off. And just great final
I had
quarter
Sassy
mile.
Little Lila in
Once
my
you get her
mix.
last quarter mile, like 21.03 if you believe the teletimer.
Yeah,
because she's like last.
Yeah.
She's last, and the last quarter mile, what was the last quarter mile raw?
22.37.
And she's last by 7 lengths, 6 lengths. So good luck with that.
Watch the head on because it really is funny to see him. He's kind of swinging out and says, "Oh wait, there's this whole open." And
All
he's
this for me?
Yeah. Sassy Little Lila was interesting to me, and I had her used in some picks at 8-1. She holds on for second. Dickens at third. My top pick in there, Rojo,
Last.
2-1. Yeah, runs last. Oof, and never really.
Now, I will say this. From an informational standpoint, not from watching the race unfold, but for trip notes, when they do change that pan shot and they get you in close for television value and bad for horse racing value in real time, it is great for notes because I thought she was in trouble at the half-mile pole. I'm like, I don't have to worry about her. She's getting beat today. And you can really see it by the shot on NBC. That would have been harder on the traditional pan shot to see. You would have guessed it as a veteran race watcher, but boy, they went right to the shot, and you saw her getting into a bad spot, wrangling and fighting. I go, toast.
Yeah, which absolutely wound up to be the case. But boy, it was a nice performance by the winner in there. Let's move on to the Met Mile. 117 buyer for More Spirit. We talked a little bit during the handicappers report.
It's how easy he made it look.
Yeah, this is his 4th straight triple-digit buyer. Comes out of his triple-digit second place finish in the San Antonio behind Opportunity, but now 3rd straight victory with a triple-digit. The Essex at Oaklawn, Sexton Mile at Lone Star, and now the Met Mile. I said to you earlier, is he now in consideration for a sprint eclipse with the 2 miles? To me, that's questionable. He may have to put a shorter one on his resume, but boy, it was a nice performance there to get it down with the 117.
As I said, it wasn't the mostest Grade 1 Metropolitan Mile, but a Grade 1 performance was put in by the winner that I didn't have.
I hear a click in my ear. I'm assuming that may be Steve Bick on the line. Good morning, Steve.
Seth, good morning. Anthony, good morning.
Happy to have you on board, and we've been talking some of the stakes action yesterday. We'll get into some of that with you as well. Before we talk the races in particular, you were down there during the week with the radio show. Good job, as always, there. But just talk a little bit about the atmosphere. I mentioned earlier the handle numbers on the Thursday and Friday card were blockbuster, and there were a couple of great days of racing, but I think capped off by yesterday, 3 really superb days of racing. Talk about the experience on track.
No, it's very nice. Everything built up starting about Wednesday. The energy level and the atmosphere around Belmont picked up. And, the racing, as you mentioned, Thursday was as good as any Saturday anywhere in the country on a normal weekend. It was terrific. And then, of course, the big Friday card leading into yesterday. And let's be honest, there were moments and there were elements that kept the leaching air out of the balloon, whether it was Classic Empire's demurring, whether it was the Epic Harris circumstance that not only took a fascinating element out, but probably cost Naira $3-4 million at least.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a bad blow. But from doing the right thing standpoint, of course, it was absolutely the right thing. But otherwise, what can you say? I mean, it was kind of an eye-crossing 33 races. To be honest, I mean, even the allowances, the maidens, the first couple of days were just exceptional. The state grade racing was every single minute was tremendous. It wasn't necessarily a lot of bonanza mutuals to partake in, but so be it. It was really a nice 72 hours, and I think everybody came away pleased in terms of the experience. There was a brisk crowd on hand on Friday, and then of course yesterday was a slow builder. They didn't exactly throng the place early, but they just sort of kept coming as the afternoon went on, and very satisfying. And then you get into the performances. I mean, there's so much to absorb. It'll take a few days, and I think a few horses running back out of this weekend for us to understand exactly what we experienced. And I'm going to turn away from all the stakes and congratulate Anthony, first time gelding Manitoulin yesterday. Must have been thrilled.
Quick note, Steve, only because of my closeness with this. He had been gelded over the winter, and I knew at Keeneland he was gelded. And Seth and I talked about how in the racing form they had the symbol, but there was a line that mentioned he ran April 27th at Keeneland gelded, which I said to Seth was right. And I said to my brother-in-law objectively that I think the horses really turned the corner for Jimmy Toner, and that was their last stop. And cashing is nice, so thank you, Steve.
Not at all.
And I'll mention a couple other kind of undercard things before we move on. You and I have had Jeremiah Engelhardt on with us up at Saratoga. Always root for him. He got the nice 2-year-old stake during the week. And then I texted you right after the race. That had to be a heartbreaker for Gary Siaka with Bavaro, because the top of the stretch, you thought he had that race.
It was tough, but the good news, I think, separately, is that Bavaro is all the way back and pointed toward the direction of that enormous performance in his second career start. And frankly, that performance took a fairly sizable toll, I think, on him. And so it is good to see him rounding back into form. He actually, I think, hinted toward that with the performance in the Stallion stake, even though it ended up fifth. It was a sneaky good effort, and 7 furlongs, maybe also about a half a furlong just beyond his range. But Gary was pleased, and they may also, given that breeding, you may also see him get on the grass and do some turf sprinting, where I think he could be very effective. But it was a fun way to start, part of the day's racing. And you mentioned Jeremiah. I had him on the show actually, and both of his wins, not just the stake win, which was terrific. He took a shot. He had been looking for an allowance, takes the shot, and he wins the Astoria. But also the win with Crawdaddy for Al Gold. The first-time starter. He touted the first-time starter on the radio with us last week. In fact, on Thursday, those people that listen to the show, and one of the reasons I like to, do a 24-hour out, talk about races the day before, and so that, for instance, Capital OTB viewers can listen to the show, the next morning, and it's still information they can use. The guest that we had on Wednesday and Tuesday, Ron Anderson, Brian Lynch, Jeremiah Engelhardt, and Mark Casse, they won 6 of the 9 races on Thursday, including $50 winners, $20 winner, $15 winner. it was a bonanza for those that tuned in, and I was very happy for all the connections. And then we also had quite a bit of success into the big card on Saturday. So really a very satisfying 3 days.
And let's talk a little bit about the big race yesterday, the Belmont. We talked about at the top of the show. One of the things that jumps out at me, and I said it was indicative of how people looked at the field. I thought the odds were kind of crazy. I took a crazy shot with Twisted Tom. But when he went at 8-1, I lost all enthusiasm for him. I had Irish War Cry and Tapwrit in my mix, so I was happy exacta-wise. But it does, as we go down the stretch, it's number 2 Tapwrit, number 7 Irish War Cry, ding-donging. Tapwrit pulls away. Patch gets up for third. What were your thoughts on the Belmont?
Yeah, the performance really that needs to be talked about is Irish War Cry, who was just tremendous. And they didn't, in terms of their approach to the race, they did not necessarily want to get the lead as early as they did, but they adjusted. Rajiv said it became obvious that he was going to be given the opportunity to lead, and I think maybe in those late stages when he was corralled by Tapwrit, I think that the early portion of the race, probably the first 3/8, they went pretty quick actually early out of the gate, and that may just have been enough starch taken out of Irish War Cry. But considering the way in which they approached the race, Graham Motion and Mrs. De Tomaso, they've got to be just thrilled, and Graham gave every indication that this was the right thing to do. It was a classic, last opportunity for a classic win, and so they were rewarded with a placement. It gets us to the winner, and the person, the individual you've got to be most happy for is Aaron Wellman of Eclipse Thoroughbred Partners. Last year, Aaron and the group that was involved, of course, with Destin, they took as excruciating a loss in this race, or any race, that owners could have. And they were absolutely stoic about it and gracious about it. And Aaron Wellman, who runs his Eclipse Thoroughbred Partners with utter professionalism and polish, I could not be happier for him. And then, of course, there's the Malone Bridlewood Farm that has been instrumental in the kind of reinvention, the rebirth in Ocala. The Malones were not there. They were in Colorado, but they had a big watching party. How about Jonathan Thomas, the one-time Fletcher assistant that breaks all the horses for Bridlewood? And Jonathan and Todd Fletcher had a terrific moment together where you could see that they really, kind of a special win for Thomas, who is, not training. He went out on his own for a while, but now has this farm position. I mean, on and on and on. There's so many nice portions of the Tapwrit story. And I suppose coming out of the Triple Crown season, where we stand is that we've got, a half a dozen 3-year-olds that could be contending for a championship as we look to the summer.
Yeah, I agree completely. I think it's totally up in the air, but that may set things up well for the Travers up at Saratoga. Speaking of setting things up at Saratoga, maybe on the 3-year-old filly side as well, going to pull up a replay of the Acorn, and I wanted to look at this one just to get your comments, but also give you a chance maybe to talk about the Mike Smith, Bob Baffert juggernaut yesterday. But in the Acorn, I liked Salty. I had Salty over Abel Tasman. Salty is going to be the number 8 horse here, and on the turn starts to make a nice big run on the outside, and I think, Salty is in a pretty good spot, and then things open up on the rail for Abel Tasman, who gets the jump on at the top of the stretch. So it'll be number 3 Abel Tasman over number 8 Salty. Number 5 Benner Island runs third in here. What was your takeaway from the Acorn?
Well, you said everything there needs to be said about it. The performance of Salty would normally have been a winning one if Mike Smith doesn't get the circumstance in his favor. It ends up being in his favor. He took a huge chance going where he went, and he wins the race by doing it. And every decision Mike Smith is making right now on every mount, it seems, is a winning one. It's a remarkable circumstance that I think continues to confound people. How amazing Smith continues to be. It's amazing.
Yeah, picking his spots and running well, and it wasn't in the next race on the card. It wasn't quite as tough a go of it here. Does get it done over a paid-up subscriber by what was the chart margin? The chart margin is a length, but he's not really working on Songbird. And I'm just curious what the buzz was down there after this race. This is the Phipps. All eyes were on this race because of the seasonal return of Songbird. She's the number 5 horse here, again, under Mike Smith. Gets it done over number 2 paid-up subscriber, as I say, by a chart margin of a length. But pretty good return to the races for Songbird.
Oh, there's no doubt. She came back. She ran a very nice race. And you knew she would be at least fresh. I don't think that she necessarily will be as brilliant and as mercurial on the front end as she was as a 3-year-old and as a juvenile. From that standpoint, I think they got the race that they wanted out of her under the circumstance. Hollendorfer was satisfied. I would almost say relieved to some extent. I mean, she is physically, she's a different horse than she was last year. She is really filled out, and she is not as lightly framed. Bigger, and you can see the maturity. And from that standpoint, I think it'll benefit her to be a little bit more relaxed and to give Smith some options going forward. They're probably going to look at the Del Cap, and there'll probably be a Saratoga start. Everything's on the table. And, of course, Rick Porter, given his health status, Porter, I think, would like to keep her on the East Coast. And he was not there yesterday. He had a function in Boston that he had to attend. But Porter, I think has made it clear. He wants to race her. He wants to see her. So we'll probably see her a couple more times. I also heard Hollendorfer reference the Clement Hirsch because, he is keeping the Breeders' Cup in his sights in terms of the fall. So we'll see. I thought that being up close and having her come back, she was breathing hard. I mean, she clearly needed this race. Don't pretend that, she only ran for 3/8. She was blowing, and she was blowing well after the photograph. So I'll tell you that.
I'm sorry, Steve. I thought she ran every foot. I thought she broke out of the gate brilliantly, and Mike just kept on with her. My question is, in this day and age, Steve, could she run 3 more times this year? Working it backward in the middle of June. I mean, how many more races do you think she'll have for her 4-year-old season? That would
seem about right. I mean, maybe a July. The Hirsch. When is the Hirsch? The second.
It's usually around August 4th or 5th.
Okay.
That time sound right? Because obviously they moved it up. The Delaware Cap is usually around July 16th. And figure she'd have a fall race, and then, because I think she stays on the East Coast or runs in the East Coast once again. I was looking for Mr. Porter in the winner's circle, and then when I didn't see him, I was like, well, that's where he would be here for her.
He was in Boston. You bring up a good point. I mean, obviously, if she runs in the Del Cap, she could run in the Personal Ensign.
Yes.
If she runs in the Hirsch, then she would probably run. What's the Santa Anita? What's the old? Is that the Rodeo Drive now? They've changed the names, but you're probably right.
The Zenyatta?
Anthony, the Zenyatta. There you go. Probably two starts before Breeders' Cup. That makes sense.
All right, Steve, got to wrap things up before we do anything else you want to touch on. More Spirit, as you came on the air, we were watching that race. That was a nice performance with a 117 buyer. Anything jump out at you otherwise?
That nothing else jumps out. I mean, I wrote up, when I wrote the races up yesterday, I said that the bet had not gotten as much attention going into the weekend as it probably would coming out, that it would be the race that we might end up talking about. And again, when you want to talk about winners that deserve this kind of a plaudit, it certainly is Michael Lunt Peterson, who's put real money in the game, has been as patient under difficult setbacks, and Peterson has stayed the course. He gets rewarded with this win. More spirit. There's a terrific subplot to this, which was the offers to buy him, and Baffert laughed those offers away as being laughable in terms of what was being dangled. And now, I mean, look at this list of elder horses of Baffert. It's just mind-boggling. This is now what, 5? Cupid, Collected, Arrogate, More Spirit, and Trafalgar hasn't even come back yet. It is astounding. And this was always a nice horse. He was like the Derby pick a year ago. You watch how Baffert refashions horses and just knows exactly what to give them for each spot that they're in. And I think there's an entire menu of options for this horse. Baffert even said that he would consider the Pegasus as a long-term goal for him. So this is really a versatile horse. It's being managed expertly, and with Escondida gone, he was made into a stallion now off of that win. It's very, very nice, and I'm in awe of what Baffert does. There's nobody better.
Yeah, and again, he was a big part of the story yesterday. He and Mike Smith teaming up to have a nice, really nice early part of the day. Steve, appreciate the visit. On your way home?
No, absolutely not. Just parked to go to the Clinton Street Baking Company, Neil Kleinberg's seminal breakfast joint, and then we're going up to the stadium. I haven't been to the new Yankee Stadium. We're bringing Tina's son Spencer and a roommate and a friend. We're taking them up to Yankee Stadium for the Orioles game at 1 o'clock.
Nice.
The fun never ends. It's a joyride like no one else.
Steve, appreciate the visit. Enjoy the day, and when you do travel home safe.
Hey now.
Steve, thanks for the visit.
You got it.
Steve Bick, SiriusXM's At the Races, which you can hear replayed here on the network overnight. Usually great job on the Triple Crown races in the weeks leading up to those, as always, but great job the rest of the year as well. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, a couple other topics. In a few minutes, we'll be joined by Keith McCalmont from Woodbine. Big day up there this afternoon. All of that right after this.
You're watching And They're Off on the OTB TV network.
We'll have to take this abuse much longer.
Championship horse racing continues at Capital OTB. There's no better place to watch, wager, and win than OTB TV and CapitalOTBBet.com.
Come on.
I want sales reports on my desk by Monday.
Whoops. My bad.
Love racing? RTN brings you every live simulcast on your home television, plus live video streaming and race replays on your PC and mobile devices. To order, visit RTN.tv. RTN, a breed apart.
And Frosted is coming with giant strides on the far outside. Here comes Honor Code. Here's the layer. Honor Code looked like he got him in the last stride.
play Aqueduct or Belmont Park, but you live upstate? With Capital OTB, your favorite tracks are closer than you think. With more than 60 easy bed and branch locations throughout the region, you're just a short drive from all the top tracks across the country and around the world. For a complete list of all easy bed and branch locations, visit CapitalOTB.com.
Welcome back to And They're Off on this Sunday morning, the day after the Triple Crown has wrapped. And as I was putting together the rundown for today's show, I had one slot open with a topic, and I was kind of, what should the topic be? And we got through about the first 4 races at Belmont, and I said, Mike Smith should be the topic, just to kind of recap.
Producer's dream.
Little career recap, because he was a New York guy for years and years, and then the injury and out in Southern California. And it's funny when you look at his career stats.
He must be late to the dance, because I always thought it was a New Mexico, Kentucky guy. I'm teasing.
Well, no.
You're picking it up.
Yeah, you're absolutely right in the beginning of the career. But he had Eclipse Award winner 93 and 94. And he was on my ballot this year. He doesn't have the numbers to get the Eclipse anymore, but what he did last year in big races, and it's amazing. You look early in the career, you pull up his Equibase stats, he's putting up those numbers of 1,200 races a year, 1997, 1,700 races. But you look at the past few years, 2016, 335 total mounts. The year before, 395. So he's at age 51 now. He's kind of picking his spots. But what spots he's picking? You look also at the Equibase page as the prominent horses he's ridden over his career, Arrogate, Zenyatta. And I think we have Zenyatta here in her Triple Crown victory, or in her Breeders' Cup victory, going back to 2009. Zenyatta will be the number 4 horse. And you have to be a crafty jockey to ride a horse like this with this come-from-behind style, because you time it, and you have to time it well. And again, Zenyatta's going to be the number 4 here, 2009 Santa Anita Breeders' Cup Classic. But as I say, he's ridden Arrogate, Zenyatta, Songbird, Royal Delta, Game On Dude, Holy Bull. And what he did yesterday at age 51 was just phenomenal at Belmont.
I've said it before. He is a better jockey now than when he won Eclipse Awards and when he got in the Hall of Fame. When he won Eclipse Awards, he was riding Cadillacs in New York. Those of us who followed the racing on day-to-day basis 27 years ago, he drove us crazy. He's a better jockey now. I never thought he's appreciably a better jockey than when he went in the Hall of Fame. He does things late in his career that typically guys do when they're trying to make their bones in the job. And he is so physically fit. I mean, it's unbelievable. He's 51 years of age, which means he's 2 years younger than me. I can't imagine what it's like to struggle to make the weight. And I'm always most amazed by Mike Smith more than any other is that I honestly believe he's much better than he was 25 years ago. I mean, I used to say things on this air that I would take back, but when I said it, they were accurate. But he is a much better jockey. I think he won, consecutive Eclipse Awards?
93 and 94.
I was pulling my hair out. I'm like, this guy isn't in the top 10. But he rode so many for Shug. People don't remember before John Velasquez got in there, before John got Todd Pletcher. Mike was the go-to guy in New York for McGee. We used to say it all the time, he rode Cadillacs. But he
Hall
is
of Fame
great
2003, and it just, as I say, what he did. Yeah, and he's a great representative for the sport,
absolutely.
Too. And the next year
always
where
has a smile on his
Zenyatta
face.
Lost to Blame, just classy. He came off and it
took all the blame.
Yeah, it wasn't
I got her beat.
Kind of crying, or he was classy.
And for those of us in our area, next year will be the 20th anniversary of probably the worst accident I've ever seen. And that jockey never rode again, and that was an awful day. And it was an awful, so now he's 33 years of age, and he's got to get back in the saddle. And he had a dip and was riding great in 98 after winning the Eclipse Awards a couple of years earlier. It's been a great story, a tremendous career, and it's not over.
Yeah, to see what he did yesterday, remarkable. Also wanted to touch on, because now we're through the Triple Crown, so just take a minute or two to talk about where we are now on the 3-year-old scene. I pulled up a replay of the Derby, and it'll be number 5, Always Dreaming, winning. Looking at Lucky, we're on 2nd. Classic Empire, the number 14, is 4th in here. The NTRA poll the past couple of weeks has had Classic Empire on top, Always Dreaming 2nd. I just feel now And again, luckily we have the rest of the year, and it'll play out and it'll start to define itself. But if there was the Eclipse Award vote now, I would go with Always Dreaming, because I think this is, in the first half of the year, certainly the 3-year-old championship, the 3-year-old playoff, the Kentucky Derby. They show up. This is the race you have to win. It was mitigated a little bit by the surface, as you can see there, the off-going. But for me, it would be, I would have a tough time pulling the trigger on Classic Empire at this point over Always Dreaming. But as I say, there's plenty of time to play out. But who would you put on top now?
Not even close. The most talented 3-year-old is Cloud Computing.
Okay.
It's not close. That race, I can only hope so much that awful Kentucky Derby is a negative key race. For those of us who loved looking at Lee at 33-1 and he ran second, and we know how good the inside was, that is an awful, I'll be betting against it for a long time. Yes. But Cloud Computing, now I should say this, when Cloud Computing broke his maiden on the inner, we were aware how good it was, and it became out that why is Chad Brown, the injury and everything. He was good in that debut. He missed the break. He settled perfectly. He came rushing. And then he, kept reaching and reaching. But on talent alone, man, he is good. I know it's going to be the Jim Dandy, etc., but he is. I put my eggs with him over everybody else.
Yeah, in about 2.5 months.
I'll let you take the next 2 picks in the draft before I want to pick.
In about 2.5 months, we'll have a much better idea. Yes. Haskell, Jim Dandy, and Travers will be in the rear view mirror.
But this sport usually works out better being ahead of the curve.
Yeah,
after the news is made.
And as I say, I think at this point it is kind of wide open, and you can go with a horse like that.
I'll tell you one thing. I'll be interested. They must do a poll at the close of the Triple Crown series. So
they do it. That'll be the last 3-year-old poll come out on Monday.
I'll be interested in that, and I'd also be interested because I got to tell you, I'd be interested to see, this is my litmus test. How many people that do those types of polls saw Cloud Computing's debut race? Maybe not live that day, but before, they followed close enough that knew that Chad Brown had a first-time starter winner. I think there's those of us in New York who think it was impressive. I'll tell you, you really had to be it was almost too good that I thought he was going to rush him, which I thought he did. I was like, oh boy. And you said Jeremiah Engelhart was looking for he was looking for a 2-year-old allowance race. Didn't Jeremiah get the word they went away with the dodo bird?
Well,
can you remember the last?
That's why he wound up in the stakes race, which is the way these 2-year-old stakes races have been.
Right. There hasn't been a 2-year-old allowance race on the NYRA circuit before Labor Day in 20 years?
And it all worked out well for Jeremiah.
I thought Coronado Quest might have won the last 2-year-old allowance race before the autumn meets.
All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, we'll shift our attention to Woodbine. Nice day today, the Oaks, the Queen's Plate Trial. Keith McCalmont will preview that right after this.
You're watching And They're Off on the OTB TV network.
Lady, is this guy bothering you?
Hey race fans, head down to the all-new Clubhouse Racebook. With live horse racing on more than 250 flat-screen TVs, state-of-the-art wagering terminals, and amazing Vegas-style atmosphere. The Clubhouse Racebook, 711 Central Avenue, Albany.
No matter where in the world you are, the excitement of wagering on horse racing is just a click away. CapitalOTB.com offers live streaming, past performances, race replays, our virtual tote board, analysis and selections from professional handicappers, and a simple, safe, and secure wagering platform. And best of all, you get track prices. Going on now, it's Bet 50, Get 50. Simply open a Capital Bets account, bet $50, and get $50 cash back. CapitalOTB.com. Log on today.
Championship horse racing continues at Capital OTB. There's no better place to watch, wager, and win than OTB TV and CapitalOTBBet.com.
Face it, most horse racing websites are just too much clutter, too much to navigate through. Next time, log on to CapitalOTB.com. Our newly designed website is easier than ever to use, with all the information the professional horse player needs. CapitalOTB.com.
Equestricon.
Equestricon.
the first ever international racing convention.
The first ever. For the fans.
Meet the legends.
The breeders, the owners.
The jockeys like me.
The best of the industry.
Come celebrate racing at EquestriaCon.
Conquistador Cielo puts ahead in front. Aloma's Ruler on the outside is second. And Runaway Groom from Canada moves up. Runaway Groom alongside the inner two. Those three to the wire. Runaway Groom, Aloma's Ruler, Conquistador Cielo, Runaway Groom in front.
Welcome back to And They're Off. All the programming here on the network sponsored by Woodbine, some of the events too. And we're happy to be joined now by one of their representatives, our friend Keith McCalmont. Good morning, Keith.
Good morning, Seth and Anthony. How are you guys?
We're very good. Big day up north today.
Yeah, happy to have you on board because we're going to preview our visit up there. We're looking forward to coming up that July 1st and July 2nd for the Queen's Plate weekend, and things kind of kick off with the Queen's Plate trial today and the Oaks. I thought we'd talk a little bit about those races with you. First, give us a little update. We talked a little bit during the break. Sounds like some good weather today.
It is, sun is shining, it is hot, and not a cloud in the sky. It's going to make for beautiful racing, and I hope the weather sticks because when you guys come up for Queen's Plate, we got a really big weekend planned. We got the Goo Goo Dolls in town to play a show right after the plate, so we'll do some work and then we'll go have some fun.
Nice. Looking forward to it, definitely. Let's jump in and get some ideas for this afternoon. The Queen's Plate trial, race number 7 today, a mile and an eighth. State of Honor from Mark Casse, certainly going to attract some attention. Comes out of a dud in the Kentucky Derby, but ran second in the Florida Derby behind Always Dreaming just prior to that. I pulled up a replay going back to May 7th of the Wando. Number 3, King and His Court, will be the winner here over number 4, Tiz a Slam. Both of those certainly are expected to take some action in the Queen's Plate. A field of 6, it seems like those 3, the 2 we're watching here, King and His Court winning and Tiz a Slam running second, and State of Honor will attract a lot of attention. What are your thoughts on the plate trial?
Yeah, I think you've picked the right race out there, Steph. I've spent a lot of time in the Casse barn this past week with Gary Boulanger, who rides King and His Court, and you can draw lines through those 2 bad races down in the south. This is a horse who gets, for lack of a better expression, homesick. He doesn't like to ship. And when he has to go from a training center and ship in on race day, he doesn't settle. He loses his nerve. But when he's at home, stabled at home, and races at home, he's lights out a different horse. He's never lost with Boulanger on his back here at Woodbine. And I think he's the horse to beat today and maybe our plate favorite in 2 weeks' time.
Did the Casse barn have any thoughts about State of Honor? Because, again, this horse comes in having run second to Always Dreaming a couple starts back. Of course, Always Dreaming, the Kentucky Derby winner. A dud in the Kentucky Derby, but he seems kind of interesting on the return to Woodbine.
Yeah, he gave his owners and those of us on the 6th floor here at Woodbine a good thrill for about a half mile in the Kentucky Derby before everything went lights out. But the big question mark here is, did State of Honor mature over the winter, or did he just improve on dirt? Or maybe it was a little bit of both. He's certainly training well. I think they want to point this horse at the Prince of Wales, the second leg of the Triple Crown, which is on dirt at Fort Erie, and I think that's his race. I'm not so sure the Queen's Plate is going to set up for State of Honor, but he's going to take money today coming out of back-to-back Grade 1 races.
Yeah, it is, again, a field of only 6, but I think it's intriguing with the 3 we talked about. Coming up a little later on the card today, the Woodbine Oaks, $500,000, 9 furlongs. Anthony and I were talking earlier during the break. Last couple of years, your man Klaus has come down, and we've done a little bankroll here at the Clubhouse Racebook. Both of the last 2 years. 2 years ago, Anthony was in, and this
Danish Dynaformer.
Yeah, this race saved him with a long shot. Last year, a long shot saved me. Both Klaus and I liked the horse that paid nicely and made the bankroll people happy. I don't know whether we have a price to find in here. Maybe you can give us an idea. Stallion Heiress at 6-1 is interesting to me. I kind of jumped on board her down at the Fairgrounds. Now, the Churchill race last time, you wonder if this is a Fairgrounds horse for a course, but Stallion Heiress at the 6-1 with Florent Giraud is intriguing. Holy Helena, Jimmy Jerkins' runner looks intriguing. Klarovich and Chad Brown have Inflexibility, and Mark Casse has Endstone coming out of a second in the Celine last time. Nice field at 12. What are your thoughts on the Oaks?
Well, I think the real big storyline here is Mike Smith coming up to ride Financial Recovery for Catherine Day Phillips. I mean, the guy is the hottest jockey on the planet right now. I think he's supplanted Ryan Moore as the go-to money rider based on what he did yesterday. And, you know, he's 8-1 morning line. I can't believe he's going to go off at that price. Personally, I'm with you, Seth, that what happens at Fairgrounds stays at Fairgrounds, and I'm going to draw a line through that one and go a different direction. I think Chad Brown's horse and Flexibility is a really, really classy filly. She's from the same family as A Shadow, who we all know was an absolute monster. And I think the breeding there suits the 1 1/8. And I suspect that Holy Helena is another one with a lot of back class in her family line. And I think that Jerkins, if you look at the little work pattern going on there, really strong 7-furlong work on the training track at Belmont a couple works back. They've put the mileage into this horse. And people may not realize this, but Holy Helena was actually stabled here at Woodbine last year, so she knows the Tapeta course. She's actually had some time all over it.
And I'll tell you, if I was going to throw in a long shot, I think I'd go with the Cassie Runner Inspired Vow, who a couple of starts back showed a little life. This horse still a maiden, but 20-1 you'll get paid. Lightly raced, probably still some upside. Again, it's hard to see a long shot this year, but if I was going to play around a little bit, Inspired Vow looks intriguing.
You know what, and that was a last-minute entry, so I'm not sure what they saw in the barn, that maybe this horse is training a little bit better, but there's a bullet work on the tab, and maybe that's what made them think she's lightly raced, but maybe that's the way to go. I don't like her to win it, but I can see her making the ticket and helping spice up your try.
And Keith, before we let you go, I'm always intrigued when I talk to people from other venues. Day after the Belmont Stakes, as I talked over the past few weeks with some of the folks at other tracks around the country, I'm always intrigued. The simulcast on Triple Crown days, Kentucky Derby Day, Preakness Day, Belmont Stakes Day. Big crowd, obviously attending live races, but also paying attention to the simulcast on those days up at Woodbine.
Yeah, you know what? The dining rooms were sold out here all throughout Saturday. There was a real buzz. The good weather helped, but people stuck around late, because the Belmont came on after our live card had finished, and it certainly boosted our handle. I mean, I think we did 4.8 million, which is a good number for us yesterday. So those big races certainly help our product.
All right, Keith, one final question. You're too young, but today is the 30th anniversary of a Fleets Plate trial. I don't know if any of the old timers have talked about it, but he was sensational 30 years ago today.
Is that all it is?
That's all. Well, when you're 53, you can say 30 years has gone by pretty quickly. I had far more and far browner hair in those days, but even in those days before the internet, we had heard of a Fleet after his plate trial.
I hate to age myself, but I was a kid coming to the track with my dad at that point, and I think I've got a program at home signed by Gary Stahlbaum, who was the winning rider that day.
Absolutely.
There you
He
go.
was brilliant that day, and he would be once again. But have a great day today.
Let me just let Keith tout one more time. Again, we're doing the plate trial today. We will be up there, but tout that Queen's Plate weekend again, July 1st and July 2nd, because I know it's going to be a big 2 days.
It's huge. It's Canada Day weekend for us, which is our 4th of July. So Saturday and Sunday, July 1st and 2nd. We've got Our Lady Peace playing on the Saturday, Goo Goo Dolls on the Sunday. Please come up, join us, have fun, watch the races, dress your best. There's fashion, food, music, and most importantly, $1 million race with Canada's best horses.
Hey, Seth can wear a seersucker again, Keith. I can't wait.
Yeah, that's right. I broke that out of the closet the other day with the nice weather. And Anthony's been talking about talking the family into maybe a Fort Erie Woodbine trip. So maybe we'll have to think about it
Tuesday,
that
Wednesday.
weekend.
I got the Prince of Wales on Tuesday. I got you guys on Wednesday night. I get a Blue Jays game in.
You know, and our buddy Gene Kirshner, he likes to tell people that the Queen's Plate is the final prep for the Prince of Wales Stakes. So you come up and watch that, and we'll go down to Fort Erie and have a busman's holiday.
Sounds good. And again, it's a really easy drive. A little day trip, but highly recommended to go up because we had a blast up there Woodbine Mile weekend last year. Keith, looking forward to the visit in a few weeks, and good luck this afternoon. We'll see you then.
We'll see everybody on Twitter. See you later.
All right, Keith McCalmont from Woodbine.
I missed his last name. Did he say see you on Twitter?
Yeah.
They're the best.
Oh.
No racetrack.
Yeah.
Via Twitter is even close to the good people at Woodbine.
Yeah.
It's amazing the great job they do. I want to say 6 people.
Yeah,
6
it's probably
people.
right. The 2 handicappers, the track itself, Keith. Yeah, you're
2 more. I mean, it is like, it's a list. It's a roster when you look. And Seth and I were talking about earlier, for whether it's just sports or whatever, but Twitter to me is
Alex
a
is out there,
godson.
Fanti, I think,
It's
is
so
out there,
awesome. And I've said this before about racetracks, and when we say people do it all the time, I wouldn't know this guy if he's standing outside the room, how they don't take pictures of these winning trainers all the time and put it up on Twitter so we get some face recognition. But Woodbine's the best.
Yeah, they do a good job. All right, before we go, I just wanted to pull up, going back to June 9th, just a couple of days ago, I wanted to show the Maiden Breaker by Emancipation, the full to orb. I was in here doing the Facebook live bankroll. I had this one in a pick.
Makes my Manitoulin pick look like peasants.
Oh man, and it's the
third to last now.
Look at the 12 Chicklet, and I have the horse in the lead in my pick bet, and so I'm saying, oh well, okay, and the 12's coming, and do I want the even money shot or do I want the $60 horse?
How do you have any confidence in Marshall Plan?
We are in the studio, and the third place horse, keep paying attention to that. That's the Chad Brown first time starter. Yeah, the horse on the rail. So yeah, Marshall Plan runs second, Mr. Classical third, and Mr. Classical, we 6-1 on the morning line, went off as a second choice at 8-5. Chad Brown runner will win sooner rather than later. But Emancipation gets away at 29-1, a full sibling to Orb.
Didn't get away from you?
No.
That race didn't look chaotic?
And we stood here in the studio saying, how did this horse get away? Because it's a full to Orb, who wasn't necessarily precocious, but still 29-1.
I'm going to say.
And I was watching horse racing broadcasting the night before on MSG, and they did a national show looking at the Belmont Stakes weekend, and they did a special segment on this horse as the full to Orb. So it wasn't like this horse went under the radar. Well, it was MSG. I think people will be watching. But how's this horse get away at that kind of a price?
That price is too high. But obviously they all went to Mr. Classical. He was the hot tipped horse.
Yeah. All right, we're going to wrap things up here on And They're Off. I'll ask the guys, do we go over the promos again? We want to do that? Oh, Woodbine. Pick, bet, and cheer on great racing north of the border. So thanks to our friends.
I might be able to join you now.
Up there. That's it. Yeah. And
come right from the Outer Banks. Just keep driving, honey. Where we stop in Toronto.
We do have to give a programming note. Mark Casano alluded to it. You didn't allude to it. He said yesterday his show is taking a hiatus. In fact, all morning programming taking a hiatus until Saratoga. Now we're going to do some special. We're going to change things up over the next few weeks and do some stuff in the afternoon. You saw Mike Callahan and Sully Crotty in doing some afternoon stuff last week. They'll be in.
We saw you doing it.
Yeah, I'll be in towards the end of the week. We'll be in the afternoons, kind of breaking in and hopefully giving some good advice in the afternoons. Morning programming disappears for a few weeks, but I do want to alert you. We come back at Saratoga, but as we said with Keith, Woodbine, July 1st and July 2nd. We'll be live at Woodbine in those 2 days in the morning, so mark that on your calendar. Otherwise, morning programming takes a break. We'll be back at Saratoga when that kicks off. Actually, the week before, a few days before, the July 15th, I believe it is. That's Saturday, so we start a little before Saratoga.
She will not get back in the car after the 11-hour drive on Saturday, but I could make it.
No,
if she lets me go, I could drive out there Sunday for that.
Yeah, well, we'll look for you out there. All right.
I think I would call you and let you know, Seth, I am coming, you and Nano. We'll look for you. What, you know this guy?
Hey, did you see him in the crowd? All right, we're going to wrap things up here on And They're Off. We appreciate everybody tuning in.
Thank you.
Since we fired this up at the beginning of the year, we've had a lot of fun doing it. Again, taking a little break for the next few weeks, however. Tune in the afternoons, though. Let us know what you think of that idea. But as I say, we'll be back on in the morning July 1st and 2nd. Otherwise, July 15th, we'll kick back in with the morning programming. Thanks for joining us this morning, and we'll see you again. Good luck today.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off Track Betting.